Nice. Two. Good. Was that 3 by 9?
I have one more set. Oh.
Trap lord, minutes of minutes turn your bitch into a lost cause. Beauty in the beast with a clip, be cautious, cautious. Murder for some city floors. Oh shit, I need a course. It's a metamorphosis of things. A little bit of Sandra in the sun. A little bit of Mary all night long. A little bit of Jessica, here I am. A little bit of you makes me your man. I am all too fall in love with the world. You can't run, you can't hide. Mambo number 5.
Sorry, bro. You can walk into mine.
And like, if you do that, the limiting factors are your fingertips. For sure. Yeah. To be able to but then you do this, like it just rotates out.
Basically, I'm trash.
And then he went like this, right? Oh no, I can't. You wanna come do stupid shit? No.
We're at the end of Monday's workout. You guys saw squats. Yellow Gatorade is good. For those of you who drink Gatorade, Limon Pepino is the best flavor. I don't care what anybody says. It's the most refreshing drink ever made. And if you don't like it, you just have a dumpster for a palate. And that's what I've concluded, and I'm sticking to it. You guys saw squats, 200 kilos for 3 sets of 9. It was very easy today, very, very sub-maximal. And there's a reason for that. This is my first time squatting 3 days a week in over 2 years. And the thing about being advanced or far into your powerlifting career is that when you compare yourself to someone who's a novice, approaching certain percentages of your max more frequently just zaps you more than it would a beginner. Even if the RP is still relatively moderate, there's just a level of fatigue that you accumulate just because of the load on the body when you are constantly trying to work volume in really high percentage ranges. So that's why it's really important for me to start slow, introducing this new stimulus of 3 days a week and kind of build from there. Like I know I'm breezing through everything, but if I start right out of the gates, even with 220, 220, 484 pounds, probably would move like RP 6, maybe 7, but starting there is going to have a much stronger fatiguing effect on me than someone who's a beginner working at that same percentage of their max. 200 is about 67% of my max, and that's where I'm starting the week off. I'm just trying to grease the groove. I'm trying to speed up the time from when I brace to when I descend. That's why you saw some of the reps I was trying to go really quick and make sure that I maintain my position on successive reps. Getting gassy from this fucking Gatorade. Bench went really well today as well. Found my groove again, easing into bench volume with this being the first week of 5 days of comp bench since before nationals. I need to start slow, 4 sets of 9, 170 kilos. My base is higher than ever despite only working on 4 days of comp bench for the past couple months. Moving on to those conventional deadlifts. I've been doing these every Monday for a while. I find that they carry over very well to my sumo deadlift, especially since I just don't get that same kind of stress, isometric stress to the back when I pull sumo. So I keep them in. I've noticed that when I pull them out, my deadlift starts to go down with it, and it's a weird thing. You might think like, you know, there's more to strength training than we really know, and when you recognize patterns like that, where something contributes to the progress of your main lift, it's important to keep it in. You know, it's important to recognize like, okay, this is driving my main lift, and it's, you know, you conclude that it's driving your main lift, and you make the decision to keep it in. I think that's really important, and it's important to recognize kind of what accessories, what variations, even what rep ranges on the comp lift do that for you, because, you know, overall volume is just one metric, and I think people get too caught up with calculating their tonnage and having pretty graphs in their spreadsheets, but I think recognizing trends is far, far more important. And I've seen it with lifters who, you know, you could equate volume in different rep ranges, yet their numbers go down. Like you could have the same, you know, you could have like a 5x4 versus like a 3x7, let's say, and, you know, despite tonnage being equated, whatever, a lifter may respond better to a 3x7, or they may respond way better to a 5x4. You know, general strength training knowledge will tell you, oh yeah, 5x4 is more comp specific, it's more, you know, you're training more maximal strength than at a 3x7, but like, there are lots of lifters who, once you take them out of the high rep ranges for more than a few weeks, their lifts start to go down. Even if volume's equated, even if volume's slightly lower, it's not always a fatigue thing. And a certain lifter might just respond better to a certain rep range, which is, you know, it's hard to explain because I don't think we fully understand where we're at with exercise science to completely explain why that is. Granted, I don't claim to be an expert kind of on the biochemical or metabolic underlyings of, you know, what happens hormonally when we lift, or what happens to the muscle cells themselves. I will link you guys to a couple sources that I think are awesome with that. Eric Helms, Chris Beardsley, Menno Henselmans, all super knowledgeable dudes who are like in this realm. I think you guys will learn a lot of valuable information from that. Another thing, I'm wearing the Candito Training HQ shirt today because my man Johnny shouted me out in his video last night, which would be 3 days from now, from when you guys see this video, which was super cool because, Johnny, I fucking hate you for how little you upload and how sporadic your schedule is, but to this day, I still click on your videos fast as hell. And ironically, last night was like the first night that I didn't. Like I clicked, I paused, and I started doing work, and then I was getting a bunch of notifications that I was getting these like, thank you for your HQ inspiration comments, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like there were a few at first, and I'm thinking that someone's trolling me, like there are a bunch of kids like trolling me together, and then somebody told me to watch the video, and I noticed that you were saying, you know, that I inspired your video format, and then also helped with bench press, and it's just like, I really appreciate that, because for those of you who haven't been in my life long enough to know when I started my powerlifting journey, or career, whatever the hell you want to call it, I started in 2014, and around that time, like, Candito was the person that I followed on social media. Like, on YouTube, Jonnie Candito was the main source I went to for everything powerlifting, and he's like the reason I started competing in powerlifting, specifically the USAPL, because when I started, I see this guy talking so highly about the USAPL. His weight class is 83 kilos, which for me is exactly where I would be competing. I was like 180 pounds in high school at the time. And I, like, without him, I don't think I would have like learned as much early on about the sport and like gotten into it and been as excited. Like I remember telling myself, I'm like, I'm gonna be like a top 83 kilo lifter. Like I wanna be the best 83 kilo lifter. And it's just crazy how, like, you know, this happens in sports and even in life in general, where you have like a young athlete who might look up to this guy who's like larger than life to him when he's like 8 or 9 years old, and then 10 years pass and he's playing in the league with him. And it kind of is the same experience now, where like at one point, like I looked up to Johnny, and I still do, but now we are in the space of like sharing information, sharing knowledge, and like I'm able to help him, which to any appreciable amount is crazy to me. So I really appreciate you, Johnny, and it's a crazy world. So that's where I'm gonna end this part of my video today. Tomorrow I have bench press, the next day I have deadlift, and I'm really excited to see where these next 14 weeks go. The next 6 are gonna be super fun. I'm really fucking confident about my squat. That's all I have to say. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I failed this miserably yesterday. We have to do it today. What do you do? It's for you, Paul!
But you didn't even put it all on the line for me. No, oh, I'm sorry. This is the end, but it's crazy cause my heart is dangerous. Felt like you took my soul from me. Like you never got a call from me. Everybody wishing back on me. You taught a lesson to me that I had to learn. And I'm so sorry cause you let our bridges burn. I said I loved you and I wish I never did. I swear to God, I swear to God. I told that.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you?
Please don't fall.
Fuck that shit,
Holy shit, squatting on 1 day rest and then having to pull after is not as bad as I thought it would be, but it was very foreign. Like I said, it's been probably 2.5 years since I've squatted 3 days a week. And Nala just, what do you need? What do you need, girl? Oh, you want to play? Okay. All right. Ready? See, you have to give it to me so that I can throw it. This is what you want. Because if I throw it, you're gonna bring it back to me, but then you're not gonna let me do. Like I said, today was very foreign. We hit the pause squats with 210 kilos. The first set felt pretty choppy. After that, things started to really clean up. Depth was good, pauses were good. And when I was warming up, I was originally going back and forth between the SBD and the best belt because I noticed more of the shifting and crooked bar position with the SBD, but then it wasn't there with the best belt, which was my initial assessment when I switched to the best belt in the first place. But I was able to kind of figure things out, finagle a little bit, and eventually I was able to squat just fine with the SBD. So I'll probably be squatting in that going forward. Barring any sort of issues, if there are any days where I feel more crooked than others, I'll probably just put on the best belt since I'll have it on me all the time for deadlifts anyway. Moving on to deadlifts, that 650 pause single felt good. It didn't feel fantastic coming off of a deload week and having 2 squat sessions prior to that will have a more profound effect on subsequent days or subsequent lifts when you're not yet adjusted to it. Like in 2 weeks, it'll be like, okay, clockwork, cool, I can deadlift after squats. But I haven't done that for my top or my better deadlift day in a really long time. But I've been trying to really nail those pauses. The thoracic reaching and trying to retract the rib cage has been absolutely huge for my pull lately. My position off the floor is just great right now. So I couldn't be any more excited with that. Those back down sets gassed me. That's why I'm only starting with 225, which is 70%. Yeah, I think it's 70%, I have to check. But 70%, 4 9s, they tested me for sure. I've been noticing lately I'm getting a huge pump in my hamstrings and glutes when I deadlift, which is a positive sign because it means that my deadlift is looking better, because it used to be the case that my lower back would just get torn up, and that's not happening anymore, so I'm really happy with that. Going into this weekend, I'm going to be having a top set of 7, I think, on squats, and that's the day of the week that I'm really going to push. And I think it's important to, when you write out your training, especially if you're training in a DUP style, if your frequency is higher than 1 or 2 times a week on a certain lift, it's important that you know what days you're prioritizing and why you're prioritizing them. I'm not doing any singles right now for a while, probably the next 6 to 7 weeks, as I know I just don't respond really well to taking singles year round on squat. It's definitely a lift that I need to kind of grease the groove with reps more, and then when I bring the singles back in, it's usually towards the heart of a meet prep. So top set of 7. And then what I'm going to be doing going forward is that middle day of the week, I'm only going to increase the load every 2 weeks. Like I've said, it's a middle day, which means I'm just trying to prioritize a certain skill, which is that stability in the hole and making sure that I hit depth, which obviously has been not an issue for all of my powerlifting career, but it was certainly an issue at nationals that I have to make sure never happens again. And with bench press is bench press, back to 5 days. Somebody commented on my video the other day, my 451 double, they're like, isn't your time to peak on bench like super quick? And I'm like, first of all, bench peaks are just like not really a thing. It's like if you're on a certain protocol, like if you change the way you train, your bench is obviously going to respond either up or down, depending on if it's what you recover from or can't recover from. But bench strength, like the days you feel good in the gym are probably the best they're gonna get on meet day. There's no more you can really add to it, especially when your frequency is as high as it is for me. So 5 days a week, I think this new stimulus is gonna be huge. Absolutely huge, let me tell you. And benching on a fat pad that next meet. So people are always like, oh, like, why are you training on the fat pad? It's like, cause guess what? That's comp specific for me, boy! So the American record is 215.5, I think, right now. So I'll probably be planning to go around 216 at this next meet. I'll obviously get a ton of hate for it because my range of motion is like this big. And I'll be honest, like, I think it's kind of lame, like arching on bench press. Like, it's not as impressive to me as when people man mode their benches and have a full range of motion, but the rules are the rules, and I'm gonna, why would I let my pride convince me that I shouldn't do something? It's like somebody not squatting low bar just because high bar is harder. It's like you don't get points, you don't get pounds on your total for doing it the I don't know what way. So that's where I'm gonna end today's video. It's gonna be a fun 14 weeks, guys, and I appreciate all of you who are gonna be following along. I think it's going to be a very special prep, especially for squats. Then go after the next couple weeks, things are gonna start to get, you know, I'll adjust, and things are gonna go really well. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Remember, no bad days, and I will see all of you in the next video.